supporter, and welcome to the Itinerary. In this episode, we're going to talk about the Great Resignation, an American phenomenon which looks like it will make its way around the globe. It's a phrase that has come to describe record levels of job turnover experienced this year. In April alone, an incredible 4 million Americans quit their jobs. That's more than the working population of New Zealand. And it seems to all boil down to one key factor, that COVID-19 has changed our relationship with work. Now, more than ever, people are realizing that they deserve better, whether it's chasing their dream, finding a role better suited for their lifestyle, or simply a need to get out of a toxic environment. The question on top of my mind is, how will this trend impact tourism and hospitality around the world? Now, to help me explore this, I have three international experts with me today and three very dear friends. Jessica Keane, National Industry Development and Capability Manager for Australia Tourism Export Council, Claire Steiner, UK Director of the Global Travel and Tourism Partnership, and Heather Alder, Marketing Director for Tourism HR Canada. Ladies, in your respective countries, is the Great Resignation something that is being talked about? Is there concern people will leave the tourism and hospitality workforce? If yes, do we know why they're leaving? And if no, do we know why people are staying? Claire, let's go to you first.
Yes, is the answer. In the UK, there is definitely a real focus on talent and the lack of available talent for businesses, where a lot of businesses have virtually closed down over the last 18 months due to the pandemic, and a lot of people, unfortunately, were let go. Now things are starting to finally open up again. People are now needing staff. Really difficult to recruit. So it's very much on everyone's minds at the moment. In fact, a recent survey here in the UK said literally in the last 3 months, the need for recruiting talented staff into their businesses went from 9% to 36% in terms of their importance. And that's just in 3 months' time. So it's definitely affecting us over here. And it's what we are calling an employee market. So a big challenge for businesses ahead.
Yeah, let's go all the way to Canada. What are you seeing over there, Heather?
Well, we're certainly seeing a lot of media coverage about the Great Resignation, though it does seem to suggest that Canada is not getting hit quite as hard as the US. Our labor force is back to 100% of its pre-pandemic level, but in terms of the tourism sector, it's a much different picture. We're down about 350,000 jobs across the country in tourism, which is a 17% reduction to our workforce. So it's a huge issue. It's top of mind for all employers across the country. Some of what we're seeing is down to businesses having closed throughout the course of the pandemic, but we were also seeing a labor shortage even before COVID struck. So it certainly exacerbated the issue. We've had huge numbers of people who were laid off or furloughed, and then government supports were around to support them. Those have started to be scaled back a little bit. And so people are now moving on to jobs in other industries because just the way timing has worked out in Canada, we're starting to see things open up just as we're ending our summer tourist season.
Crazy. And let's drop over to our cousins in Australia. You've had a heck of a little, 12, 24 months. Melbourne having one of the longest lockdowns that we've seen around the world. How are you guys faring over there?
We're doing really well, thank you, Matt. It's great to be here. I want to call it not the Great Resignation. I want to call it the Great Ignition. We're going to reignite this industry and bring people back. So what we're finding over here, very similar story to my international colleagues. We have lost a lot of people to the industry, but very similar to Canada, we were already in that situation. So we were already had a labour concern and shortage before all of this occurred, and this has just exacerbated the situation. Look, we lost people because of job security. The industry became extremely vulnerable and people left for their own job security. People that stayed were in businesses that were able to survive. So that's pretty much our situation. But yeah, very similar story to the global picture. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Like my renaming.
I do like you renaming. I think it's good because there's a lot of negatives that have happened in tourism and hospitality. So
Totally.
let's be a little bit of positive. Here in New Zealand, we lost roughly 90,000 workers when COVID hit our shores, and we're currently experiencing a crisis to fill our jobs. We call it a workforce crisis. It's there. It's been quite eye-opening for us just to see how much our industry relied on migrant workers. Here in New Zealand, we've closed off our doors to anyone. Is that a problem you are also facing? I'll go to Heather first.
Sure. So yes, it's definitely something that we've seen have an impact on our labor market, and it's been at a few different levels. We've had employers who bring in temporary foreign workers through a special program that we have through the government. But then we also had those who relied on young people on working holiday visas, as well as others who would hire international students who are able to work part-time hours to try to support their studies. And of course, all of those have been hit by restrictions as to who can come into the country. I'd say too, as we're entering the winter season, the working holiday program is probably the one that's making the most headlines right now. A lot of our ski destinations really relied on workers from that particular visa. And so it's difficult to get people to come and work in those resort communities. A lot of them are outside of the major urban centers. So to try to get people to relocate, I'd say, has been top of mind. And so the labor shortage has been really acute in places like Whistler and Banff and our ski destinations.
One could only imagine from being there and seeing all the different nationalities that used to be there. Claire, in the UK, how are you looking over there?
Not brilliant. Before COVID, we knew we had one certain thing looming, which was going to affect us anyway in terms of migrant workers, and that, of course, is Brexit. And what we saw is an acceleration of people moving home to Europe, to European home countries as a result of the pandemic. And of course, they're not coming back at the moment. And why are they? It's really tough. So a lot of businesses, particularly hospitality in the UK, relied very, very heavily on the migrant workforce for their labour, and they're just not there anymore. And trying to bring them back at a time when the UK is effectively closing its borders to Europe through Brexit remains another big challenge. So we're waiting to see what the government are going to do to try and help many of the businesses who are so reliant on that migrant workforce.
Totally understand. And obviously, Jessica, in Australia in the recent weeks, we've seen you open borders, flights to LA, flights to London. How are you faring with the migrant worker situation?
Look, we really relied on the migrant workers, not just tourism. There were other industries that rely on the working holiday maker in particular. We're working really hard to try and get this back as soon as possible, particularly because we have a lot of regional communities that rely on this workforce. So, yeah, we're feeling more positive and hoping that we see them back really soon because they make a big difference to our workforce.
Oh, look, we're hoping in New Zealand that we get to see you very soon, and we see flights are starting to come on board in January, February. So let's hope that that's the time we'll be able to get there and obviously get over to Canada and UK very soon. But look, Heather, what are some key actions currently taking place in your country to better the tourism hospitality workforce or make it more attractive to new talent? For example, onboarding, incentivization seems to be on the rise. What are you seeing?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that here. Employers are looking at multiple ways to attract new talent. And so we're looking at whether it's increased wages, more perks and benefits. Obviously, there's a lot to offer in tourism and hospitality in that respect, whether it's free stays at sister hotels, discounts on meals, that type of thing. Signing bonuses also seem to be something that are cropping up. And then I would just say the industry as a whole is really coming together to offer individuals access to free training, to extra things to try to upskill themselves, or even just to get a foothold in the industry to start off with. So looking at things that are often transferable skills, but also looking to upgrade to supervisory or managerial roles as well.
Nice. And Claire, obviously the Global Travel and Tourism Partnership with the ICE, which I sit on as well with you lovely ladies, is a really interesting training platform to do that. So, what are you seeing where you sit?
I think what's key is to engage with young people as early as possible in the opportunity tourism, and I incorporate the whole global tourism sector, including hospitality within that. I think that more needs to be done to inform young people about the amazing array of jobs there are and get them excited about it. And I think sometimes we have a bad reputation for very sort of atypical jobs that people think of when they think of tourism jobs. So I think we need to really do a lot more than we are doing, and the GTP is doing that. We're working with some amazing brands to really showcase the huge variety of careers there are in the sector, that you can do anything from technology to being a lawyer to accountancy, you know, business qualifications and all that sort of thing, as well as your more traditional tourism jobs. And I think the other thing that we need to make more of is that it's a great starting career for many people. The skills you learn in a job in tourism, hospitality, aviation really will take you through your entire professional life. So it's, for me, it's also a great way of getting young people in to really teach them some really useful skills, some employability skills. And then hopefully, once we get them into the sector, we can keep them, as so many people, as we all know here, fall in love with the sector once they're in it. So the GTP is very fundamental to that. And we reach about 800,000 young people across the world every year to try and showcase, as I said, the amazing careers that we've all seen and we all ourselves have.
Look, that's some awesome messaging there. And look, Jessica, in your role, you and I have connected many times, obviously, for what we do at Go With Tourism, but also what you do. And we have all of us on this call share the same passion. But what are some of the things that you are seeing in Australia? What are you trying to do differently? Obviously, breaking perceptions is one, but what are you looking at to do?
What are we doing? Well, recently we've been running roundtables. We've been around the country talking to each of the states, and obviously workforce was one of the biggest issues that's been faced by the industry, and how they're going to source staff, keep them, train them, all of the issues that we're covering this morning. But one thing that did come up as a solution, so we asked them for their issues, and obviously workforce came through, and we asked them for solutions. And one thing that came through, just something different that I wanted to share this morning, was they were talking about sharing, practically how that works. That's another story. But they were saying in the regions, if they could attract certain staff into the regions, one, they'd have to accommodate them, also another issue. And two, maybe they could share them between different products. So that was another option that I thought was a good one to raise. Obviously, I concur with my global colleagues on the other incentivisations that they've said, but I thought I'd add something a little bit different. But I thought that was quite a good idea, particularly if they are going into a regional community where there is a desperate need for staff. Thanks, Matt.
No, I love that. The gig economy is something that is huge. And I know Claire and I have spoken about it before, Heather, but it's something that hasn't really been adapted well by tourism and hospitality providers because of the tax and all the way that it gets convoluted. But it is something that I truly think can benefit our industry. And
that's, Matt, that's the thing. We're going to have to think differently. We can't just go back to where we were a couple of years ago. We're going to have to think differently on how we attract, keep, train all staff to help our businesses.
Look, and I can see you all nodding, which leads me into my next question, which is over the next 10 years, what could we do differently or explore further as part of a long-term strategy for attracting talent? So, for example, here in New Zealand, we focus a lot on improving perceptions in secondary schools and primary schools, making the subject more academic. We actually finally have just got it as an achievement standard in schools, which actually means university entrance, thank gosh, and trying to ensure our tertiary institutes is teaching the skills that are actually genuinely needed by our industry. So let's put that cap on. What do we think the future could look like? Let's go to Claire first.
I think one of the things that a lot of businesses, and certainly we're seeing in the UK, and I see with my other HR hat on, is that businesses need to really, really look at their values and what they stand for. What's definitely happening here, and we're seeing in other countries as well, is that people's requirements of their work has changed. We all know that. We know there's a new way of work. We've all been talking about it. But actually what the company stands for is really important to not just the up and coming generations, which I think we were very much focused on before the pandemic, but because people have had a chance to reflect over the last 18, 20 months and think about what is it that they want from their working life? Why would they, affect their potentially mental health by sticking with something that doesn't work for them and doesn't share their values? So businesses themselves are really having to start thinking about what it is they stand for outside of just the job that they do. So there's a much bigger picture, that businesses have to incorporate, because that's what people want. And in fact, values is now more important to people than salary. And the second most important thing people are saying is location. I think pre-pandemic, that was, is it, within a commutable distance? Now it's actually, does it allow me to work from where I want to work from and work the hours I want to work? And that, again, goes down to the values of the business. So I would say that's very key. And that's certainly something I'm seeing a lot of focus on here in the UK.
Yeah, the Gen Z generation and the Alpha generation coming through care about what they're doing. They actually don't care about the money, but they do care about the impact that they're having and what their role brings. Heather, obviously, you sit a lot in the training space as well. What would you like to see us do differently over the next 10 years? Is education needing to change as well with that?
Certainly things in Canada, I think, do need to change at the education level. Tourism isn't a course that's taught across the board. It's, if the school has an interest in offering it, they do. And it's also quite regional in its approach. There's different curriculums in each province or territory. So I think that's where programs like the GTTP come into play, because they can really provide a good overview, a good picture of what travel and tourism mean globally. And then we obviously have some resources that are more specific to the Canadian tourism market. And then it's also showcasing the different post-secondary education options that are available in the career pathways. So it would be great to see just kind of a broader education campaign at that level to make sure that, I was about to say kids, but I won't, young people know that there's stable, well-paid careers in the tourism industry. And it also offers them a really flexible, transferable area to build some skills and get a start in the workforce.
Yeah, I love that idea, because the transferable skills is something that I think people really undersell in our industry. But, it set me in great stead in my life. Jessica, you and I have had this conversation, reimagining what this could look like, how big we could go. What would you like to see done differently over the next 10 years?
I'd love to see tourism as a career, as a real career industry. I love what you guys do, Matt, with Go With Tourism. I think we need to look at the schools. We start early. We educate the students on how tourism is a career and how you can progress your career through the industry. So the way you at Go With Tourism show their path from where they start right through to their whole career is exactly where we need to go. We need to show them it's a viable, dynamic, fun career opportunity industry.
Yeah, I agree. Look, burnout and toxic environments seem to be key factors behind the Great Resignation. And, unfortunately, hospitality, which is in with our tourism friends, is one of the sectors impacted by its staff leaving for these reasons. However, tourism is an industry known for being fun and exciting. Do you think we could see the same problems in our industry with, when it comes over here and the Great Resignation hits? Do we think we will see people impacted by burnout? And what do you think we could do to avoid it? Go to you, Claire, because I can see you already summing up your answer there.
Listen, I think every employer has, as I said, talked about the values. And I keep going on about this, but it is really important. And part of that is their relationship with their staff and whether that staff feels valued themselves. So it's not just about the business, representing the ethical values that people want to see, the sustainability, the responsible employers, but actually it's how are they making their staff feel valued? Are they providing them with a career pathway? Are they giving them progression? Are they being recognised? And are they being looked after through things like their mental health and their financial health? All of these things that actually is really important to people to feel valued at work. So I think it's not just about the businesses and their values and what they stand for, but it's actually making your staff feel valued. And I think if you do that, you will avoid these toxic environments. And one other point I would make, which is again another big focus here, and something that I do a lot with, and Matt, about my Future You program, it's about equality, diversity, or equity, diversity and inclusion as well, and showcasing that in our sector, because We need to do more of that. And again, young people, the Gen Alphas and the Gen Zs want to see that in the businesses, and they need to see that happening. So we need to showcase all the great stuff we're doing to make sure that our businesses are diverse and inclusive, as they have to be going forward.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps. It's something that obviously I sit here and I talk about regularly, and I love to hear that come out. The other side is we have a lot of small businesses in tourism and hospitality, and I think what we've got to do is we've got to help them out. How do they have a better HR structure? How do they onboard correctly? How do they make sure they don't burn out their staff? How do we make sure they reward people for unhospitable hours? How do we make sure they understand the needs and wants of a young parent? Look, ladies down below, Jessica and Heather, anything that you wish to add into that?
I do. I don't see it as toxic. I see we're tired. Everyone's really tired. And as you said, Matt, we're small to medium businesses. People have worked really hard the last 20 months to stay alive. And with the border open, shutting, chasing domestic business, chasing international, when will that open? And I think that it's been really difficult for them all. But I don't think they're toxic. I just think they're really tired. And I actually think the tourism industry does it really well. I think over here, I know the businesses are really good at accommodating staff requirements, and I think they're doing it really well. They're just trying to survive at the moment. That's where we're at.
I agree. Look, there's always a survival, and it's always interesting when you read these reports and they put burnout and toxic, and of course, it's all these the key words to grab the journalists to grab it and put it in. Heather, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I fully echo what's been said so far. People are tired, and anyone who's working in a public-facing role right now has, they're dealing with a lot on a day-to-day basis. There's a lot of responsibility for them to make sure that all the health and safety requirements are being followed. They're getting people who may not necessarily share the views that the establishment does. And so it's, like Claire said, it's a matter of making sure that they know that they're supported, that they've got the resources they need to do their jobs properly. They know that management has their back. And just making sure that they feel really valued. And Matt, echoing what you said as well about that these are small tourism operators. So most of them don't have a dedicated HR person. So it's a matter of making sure that they know where to find the resources so that these small business owners can put into place some really top-notch HR policies and practices to try to support their staff.
Yeah, look, prior to COVID-19, tourism employed 1 in 10 people all around the world and was in need of new talent to keep up with the demands brought on by the travelers of the world. I'm not sure what those stats look like now. However, if I look over into America, I do know that they need 10,000 staff alone in Marriott. But no doubt there have been many job losses and businesses have fallen over, and that is the sad factor of what COVID has done. But what are your future predictions for the tourism workforce in your respective countries as we return to normal? Jessica, I'll go to you because you're already facing a very interesting situation. So let's go to you first.
Look, I think it's going to be slow, a very slow recovery for us. International borders are starting to open here, particularly in New South Wales, which is really exciting for our businesses. But we think it will be, this is just an opinion, that it will be a slow trickle in terms of this, and what happens with that in terms of the staffing. Some of the businesses have adapted their experiences because of less staff, so they've changed their businesses in the interim. But eventually, the working holiday maker will be back. We'll have international students, and that again will be a slow recovery. But that's where we'll see how this will actually move forward. Thanks, Matt.
I love your positive attitude. Look, go to Heather. Respective countries, what do you think it will look like when we return to normal in Canada?
So I think there's going to be a shift in the way that staff are looking for different things out of their job. And Claire touched on this earlier. I think there's a real demand for more work-life balance. They want to be passionate about what they're doing. They want to see that it's making a difference. And I think travel and tourism is a great industry for that because, you're allowing people from around the world to come and see your culture, see all the different things that your country has to offer. And so I think also, in addition to kind of the demands on that side of things, there will probably be more in terms of training, cross-training, and just making sure that employees know the different avenues that they can take within an establishment so that there are opportunities to move, whether it's laterally or up the career ladder.
Yeah, I love that whole side because everyone always sees the linear pathway, but you've got to see the lateral pathway because in our industry, you can go in any directions. Claire, what are your future predictions for the tourism workforce? And does it have something to do with what you share with your future you people?
Yes. Yeah, I agree slightly with what Jessica's saying in terms of, I think part of it will be slow. And I think, it will take a while, a long time for us to get back to the sorts of travel levels that we saw pre-pandemic, if we ever will. I mean, some are predicting that we'll never quite get back there. I don't think there'll ever be a normal again. I think we can call it the next normal if we want, but things are going to look differently. I think the challenge we have at the moment is that we need people, and we need them now. We need people to hit the ground running here in the UK, and they just aren't there. Some people have, had that burnout. They had to deal with the last 18 months of a really difficult situation, just trying to stay afloat, and they are tired, and they just don't want to be doing this anymore. Our hope is that, that the lure of the industry will bring them back, even if they have left it for now. But it's about getting out to this next generation, and it's about really getting them excited about the opportunities. Through Future You, we bring industry to education, and we bring young people to them, people that look like them, that they can see themselves being in just a few years' time, to showcase the sorts of pathways and sorts of careers, and to get people excited about it. And I think we all need to do more of that, and the industry needs to work together to really showcase the diverse nature of all the roles that we have here. So I think we will see, I think, a nice change, a sea change. And the other thing I would say is that what we're already seeing is also a lot of startups. So we always see this in any kind of crisis. There's opportunities always arise out of challenges. And so what we're seeing is a rise of a lot of new startups, which is really exciting, are filling gaps in the market that may have been created because of the pandemic or in spite of the pandemic. And so, again, those are things that we need to get excited about, and we need to get on board with, and really showcase that through programs like Future You to the young people, just to show them that really the sky is the limit, and to really consider tourism as Jessica was saying, as a proper profession, because it is a proper profession, and we need to really make sure we improve our image going forward.
I do love that because we are in the new, what I call the new abnormal. And someone said to me, we've just gone through 2019 BC before COVID, and we're about to enter in 2022 AD after distancing. So what do we want the new abnormal to be? How are we going to make it look? And I think hearing from you three lovely ladies today has given me the energy and reminded me that our workforce challenges are there, but we are positive, and it is a viable career pathway in tourism and hospitality. And you only need to look at each one of you individuals to know that it can be successful, and you can have a very good time doing it. Thank you so much for joining me today.